My Weirdest School, Book Number 6. Mr. Nick is a Lunatic. Written by Dan Gutman. Pictures by Jim Palott. Chapter 6. The Perfect Food. We eat lunch in the vomitorium. It used to be called the cafetorium, but then some first grader threw up in there. I usually bring my lunch from home, but my mom forgot to pack it, so I had to buy lunch. Something tells me that Mr. Nick is not a real principal, I said as I waited online with the guys. What do you mean, AJ? Asked Ryan. Well, Mr. Bob told me he isn't a real art teacher, I explained. He's just Mr. Nick's dentist, and Miss Moon isn't a real teacher, so maybe Mr. Nick isn't a real principal either. Real principals have lots of rules, and real principals don't call the all-purpose room the all-porpoise room. Mr. Nick must be an imposter, said Michael. Yeah, said Neil. He probably tied up Mr. Klutz to some railroad tracks, and a train is about to run him over. Stuff like that happens all the time. We've got to do something, shouted Emily, and then she went running out of the vomitorium. I slapped my forehead. What a crybaby. Finally, after we waited for 1,100,000 minutes, we got up to the front of the line. There was a lady behind the counter. I had never seen her before. Where's Miss LaGrange, our regular lunch lady? Ryan asked her. She's on strike with all the teachers, the lady said. My name is Miss Julia. You're not a real cook, are you? Asked Alexia. Of course I'm a real cook, said Miss Julia. In fact, I'm Mr. Nick's personal cook and nutrition advisor. Oh no, I didn't like the sound of that. What would you kids like to eat for lunch today? Asked Miss Julia. You can have anything you want. I'll have a hot dog, I said. I'll have chicken fingers, said Andrea. I'll have a hamburger, said Alexia. Sorry, Miss Julia told us. I don't eat meat, and I don't serve meat. You're a vegetarian? Michael asked. No, said Miss Julia. I don't eat vegetables either, and I won't serve them. How about eggs? Ryan asked. Do you eat eggs? Eggs? Are you crazy? Said Miss Julia. Do you have any idea what they do to the chickens that lay those eggs? Milk, cheese? I asked hopefully. Please, Daddy, said Miss Julia. No way! It's out of the question. Seafood? Asked Andrea. Could I have some tuna fish, please? Nope, said Miss Julia. Tuna's full of mercury and other chemicals. Can I just have a piece of bread? Asked Alexia. I'm really hungry. Sorry, this is a gluten-free school now. No bread. So what can we have for lunch? I asked. You said we could have anything we want. Uh-huh, said Miss Julia. You're in luck. Today we are serving some delicious, organic, gluten-free, all-natural, free-range water with no preservatives. Wait, what? You're giving us glasses of water for lunch? I asked. Of course not, said Miss Julia. Don't be silly. I boiled the water to kill the germs. Here, you can each have a bowl of water soup. Water soup? Miss Julia handed a bowl of water to each of us. The bowls were hot, and steam was coming out of them. Water soup? Is this some kind of a joke? Asked Ryan, who will eat anything. Ryan totally doesn't know what a joke is. A joke would be like, what kind of flowers are on your face? Tulips. Water is the liquid of life, Miss Julia told us. Think about it. Water has no calories, no sugar, no artificial ingredients, no sodium, no cholesterol, no GMOs. It's the perfect food. Drink up. You'll feel better. I knew I should have brought my lunch from home. We took our bowls of water soup and sat down at a table. Miss Julia is peculiar. Chapter 7. I think, therefore I am. This soup is pretty watery, I said as I sipped from my bowl of water soup. I'm hungry, said Neil. Me too, said Michael. I'm starving, said Ryan. I would eat anything right now. You'll eat anything anytime, I told him. Even stuff that isn't food. I think my stomach is eating itself, said Alexia. Our new teacher, Miss Moon, came over to the table. She had her usual big smile on her face. Are you kids enjoying lunch? She asked. Isn't Miss Julia a great cook? No, said all the girls. No, said all the boys. Miss Moon led us back to our classroom. She said it was time for math. Ugh, math is boring. I thought you said you weren't going to teach us math, said Andrea. I'm not going to teach you math, said Miss Moon. Mr. Nick is bringing in a special teacher to teach you math. And you'll never believe in 1,000,000 years who walked into the door at that moment. Nobody. It would hurt to walk into a door. I thought we went over that in Chapter 1. But you'll never believe who walked into the doorway. It was Mr. Nick. You're the special math teacher? I asked. Yeah, I dig math, said Mr. Nick. Numbers are my bag, dude. Oh no, I had a bad feeling about this. Let's start with the basics to see how much you kids know about math, said Mr. Nick. Can anybody tell me what you get when you add 2 plus 2? Andrea looked like she was going to burst. She was waving her hand in the air like she was stranded on a desert island and had to signal an airplane. You don't have to raise your hands anymore, Mr. Nick told us. We have no rules here, remember? So, Andrea, what is 2 plus 2? 4, she shouted. Then she smiled the smile that she smiles to let everybody know she got the right answer. Mr. Nick closed his eyes and stroked his chin for a minute. He said. That is a very interesting answer, Andrea. But what if 2 plus 2 isn't 4? What? But of course 2 plus 2 is 4, Andrea told him. Everybody knows that. I don't even have to look it up. Mr. Nick looked around like he didn't want anybody else to hear. Then he lowered his voice to a whisper. Your teachers have been telling you all your life that 2 plus 2 is 4, he whispered. But what if 2 plus 2 is actually 5. Here we go. What if everything your teachers ever taught you is wrong? Mr. Nick whispered. Maybe you've been brainwashed your whole life. Did you ever think about that? But I know that 2 plus 2 is 4, Andrea said as she took some pencils out of her pencil case. Look, if I put 2 pencils on my desk, and then I put 2 more pencils on my desk, and then I count the pencils, it comes to 4 pencils. 1, 2, 3, 4. Andrea was right for once in her life. Well, you're entitled to your opinion, Andrea, said Mr. Nick. This is a free country. Our founding fathers gave us freedom of speech. But if you ask me, numbers are a state of mind. Maybe everybody is wrong, and 2 plus 2 is actually 65. Maybe it's minus 4. Maybe in another universe, 2 plus 2 is 1,000,000,004. Doesn't that blow your mind? But, we all started giggling because Andrea said but, which sounds just like but, even though it only has 1 T. Then Andrea put on her mean face. That's crazy, she said. 2 plus 2 is 4, and that's all there is to it. Hey, chill, girl, Mr. Nick said, flashing a peace sign. Let's try to be tolerant of people who don't agree with our opinions. Haters gonna hate, but we don't have to be close-minded. Let's be accepting of all views. I say, let's teach the controversy. I didn't know what he was talking about. Mr. Nick is a lunatic. Okay, I think that's enough math for today, Mr. Nick said. The point of this lesson is, are you gonna think for yourself, or are you going to let the man tell you what to think? I looked around. The only man in the room was Mr. Nick. Remember the words of the great French mathematician Descartes, Mr. Nick said as he walked out the door. I think, therefore I am. I think, therefore I am? That made no sense at all. I am what I am, even if I don't think about who I am. That guy Descartes was weird. I don't care what Mr. Nick says. 2 plus 2 is definitely 4. I think. Chapter 8. Mrs. Hall is a goofball. It was 1 o'clock in the afternoon, or maybe it was 2 o'clock. I'm not sure. I was so hungry that I couldn't think straight. All I had for lunch was a bowl of water soup. As soon as Mr. Nick left, some lady came into our classroom. I had never seen her before. My name is Mrs. Hall, she said. I'm here to teach you creative writing. I'll bet you're not even a creative writing teacher, said Ryan. You're right. I'm not, said Miss Hall. I'm Mr. Nick's yoga instructor. But how hard could it be to teach creative writing? You just put words on a page, right? Ooh, can we write a story? Asked Andrea. I love stories. Me too, said Emily, who always agrees with everything Andrea says. The two of them were all excited. You can create anything you want, said Mrs. Hall, as she handed out sheets of paper to all of us. That's why it's called creative writing. I'm going to write a story about butterflies, said Andrea. Me too, said Emily. The two of them started writing on their papers. Writing is boring. I didn't know what to write. I didn't feel like being creative. I felt like eating. I looked around. Everybody else had already started writing stuff on their papers. Mrs. Hall was looking at me. "How about you, AJ?" she asked. "What do you want to write about?" "I don't know," I admitted. "I don't have any ideas." "Everybody has ideas," she replied. "What do you care about? What's important to you? What are you passionate about?" I thought and thought and thought. I thought so hard that my brain hurt. I thought so hard that I thought my head was going to explode. Or maybe I was just hungry. That's it! I took a crayon out of my desk and wrote this in big letters. "I'm hungry." "Good, AJ," said Mrs. Hall. "I like the passion you put into that. You get an A in creative writing." "Huh! I wrote 2 words on a piece of paper, and I got an A. Not bad. Hey, creative writing isn't so terrible after all." Andrea looked up from her desk. She had on her mean face. "That's not fair," she complained. "Arlo just wrote, 'I'm hungry,' and he got an A for creative writing. I was going to write a 10-page story about butterflies." "Ha! Na boo boo on Andrea." "You can create whatever you want," said Mrs. Hall. "It doesn't matter how long your story is, as long as you write what you feel passionate about." Andrea turned over her sheet of paper. Then she wrote this on the other side. "I want Mr. Cooper back." "That's what I feel passionate about," she said. "Good, Andrea," said Mrs. Hall. "You get an A in creative writing, too." "That's not fair," I complained. "Andrea stole my idea. I was creative before she was creative." "Anybody can write whatever they want," said Mrs. Hall. "It doesn't matter who did it first." Everybody in the class saw that Andrea and I had gotten A's for doing nothing. They all turned over their sheets of paper and started writing like crazy on the other side with crayons. Alexia wrote, "I want to learn something," on her paper. Michael wrote, "This school is messed up." Emily wrote, "I want Mr. Cooper back too." Ryan wrote, "Mr. Nick is a lunatic." Neil wrote, "These teachers are fakes." "Yes, yes," said Mrs. Hall. "I like your passion. Express yourselves. Let it flow. You kids are so creative." Mrs. Hall said we all got A's for creative writing and that we should keep working. She excused herself and said she had to go to the ladies' room. "I can't believe she gave us all A's," said Ryan as soon as Mrs. Hall left. "I just wrote 5 words." "This class is bogus," said Michael. "This whole school is bogus," said Alexia. Yeah, everybody agreed. "Hey, we should go on strike," I suggested. "We should go march around outside with these signs like our real teachers did." Everybody looked at me for a minute. "That would be cool," Ryan finally said. "AJ, you're a genius," said Alexia. "Let's do it," said Andrea. Even she liked my idea. I should get the Nobel Prize. That's a prize they give out to people who don't have bells. "I'm scared," said Emily. "We could get in trouble." "Let's go," I shouted. We all picked up our signs and rushed out of the classroom. We didn't even go quietly in single file. There was no line leader, no door holder. It's cool having no rules. We just ran 1,100,000 miles down the hall until we got to the front door. That's when Mr. Nick came running out of the principal's office. "Hey, where are you kids going?" he shouted. "It's not time for dismissal yet." "We're expressing our creativity," I yelled back at him. Then I flashed him a peace sign. "That's right," yelled Andrea. "We're not going to let the man tell us what to do. We're thinking for ourselves." "Come back here, you kids," Mr. Nick shouted. But it was too late. We were already out the door. On the sidewalk, we all started marching, shouting, and holding up our signs. It was cool. Creative writing is fun. "We want our teachers back," we chanted. "We want our teachers back." A few minutes later, the front door opened, and a bunch of kids from the other classes came running outside. I guess they saw us out the window. Some of them were carrying signs of their own. "Join us," Andrea shouted to them. "We're on strike. We're on strike," we all chanted. "We're on strike." That's when the weirdest thing in the history of the world happened. But I'm not going to tell you what it was. Okay, I'll tell you. A tank came rolling down the street. Chapter 9. Release the dogs. The tank stopped in the middle of the street, right in front of us. The hatch on the top opened up, and I think you can guess whose head popped out. It was Dr. Kerbel's, the president of the Board of Education, of course. "What are you kids doing out of school?" he asked. "We want our teachers back," we chanted. "We want our teachers back." "Put down those silly signs and return to class," Dr. Kerbel shouted through a bullhorn. "I have called in the police and the fire department." "Will you bring back our old teachers?" asked Andrea. "No," shouted Dr. Kerbel. "Go back to school." "We want our teachers, not some weird creatures," somebody shouted. "We want our teachers, not some weird creatures," we all started chanting. "If you kids don't return to school right now," shouted Dr. Kerbel, "I will be forced to turn on the hoses and release the dogs." "Dogs," I said. "I love dogs." I do love dogs, and getting sprayed by hoses is fun. One time I was washing my dog, Buttons, with a hose, and all the neighbors came over with their dogs, and we had a big neighborhood dog washing party. Everybody was spraying each other with water. That was cool. "Dr. Kerbel has attack dogs, dumbhead," said Andrea. "He's going to attack us with dogs and hoses." "Your face looks like an attack dog," I told Andrea, because I couldn't think of anything else to say. "Oh, snap," said Ryan. "He's bluffing," said Michael. "Dr. Kerbel would never attack a bunch of kids with dogs." "Oh, you don't think so?" shouted Dr. Kerbel. The tank started to inch forward. We all took a step backward. That's when the most amazing thing in the history of the world happened. Andrea went over and stood right in front of the tank. She put her hand in the air. The tank stopped moving. "Move out of the way, young lady," shouted Dr. Kerbel. "I'm warning you, I will crush your rebellion, just like I crushed your teacher's rebellion." "No," Andrea shouted back. I'm not moving until our teachers are allowed to come back to school. Andrea is so brave, Emily said. When I grow up, I want to be just like Andrea. At that moment, sirens started blaring down the street. A bunch of police cars and fire trucks pulled up and screeched to a halt. I'll give you one last chance, Andrea, shouted Dr. Kerbel. Go back to school right now, or else. Not until our teachers come back, Andrea shouted. Okay, you asked for it, shouted Dr. Kerbel. Turn on the water hoses, men. Release the dogs. Chapter 10. Big Surprise Ending. I have to tell you, there was electricity in the air. Well, not really. If there was electricity in the air, we would have all been electrocuted. Before Dr. Kerbel and his men had the chance to attack us, the weirdest thing in the history of the world happened. A delivery man came walking up the street. Well, that's not the weird part, because delivery men come walking up the street every day. The weird part was what happened next. Howdy do, everybody, the delivery man said. What's all the ruckus about? I have a package here for elementary school. Put that box down, shouted Mr. Nick as he came running out of the school. There might be a bomb in there. A bomb? A bomb? A bomb! In case you were wondering, everybody was saying a bomb. The delivery man put the big box on the sidewalk, very gently. A policeman got out of his car with one of the dogs. The dog started sniffing around the box. She's trained to sniff out bombs, said the policeman. Maybe there's some food in that box, Ryan whispered to me. I'm starving. The dog stopped sniffing. I guess there wasn't a bomb in the box. Mr. Nick went over to the box and got down on his hands and knees. He slowly tore off a piece of tape on the top of the box. Stand clear, he said. There could be anything in this package. It was so exciting. There was electricity in the air. Well, not really. I thought we went over that already. But we were on pins and needles. Well, not really. We were just standing there. If we were on pins and needles, it would have hurt. But we were all glued to our seats. Well, not exactly. That would be weird. And there were no chairs outside. Why would anybody glue themselves to a seat anyway? How would you get the glue off? Mr. Nick opened the flaps on the box. He reached inside. He pulled something out. It was big. We all moved closer to get a better look. It's a coffee machine, Mr. Nick said. Who ordered that? Shouted Dr. Kerbel angrily. I didn't buy a coffee machine. No, but we did. We all turned around, and you'll never believe in 1,100,000 years who was standing there. I'm not going to tell you. Okay, I'll tell you. It was Mr. Klutz and Mrs. Rupee and Miss Hannah and all our regular teachers. Yay! We all yelled. You came back! Klutz! Shouted Dr. Kerbel. I should have known it was you. Where have you been all day? We were at Starbucks, said Mr. Klutz. We decided to chip in and buy our own coffee machine. Now we're ready to get back to work doing what we love, teaching the youth of America. Yay! We all yelled again. You can't come back to work, Klutz, shouted Dr. Kerbel. You're fired. Nick, please escort these students back into the school. Everybody looked at Mr. Nick. Nah, I don't think so, man, said Mr. Nick. We know when we're not wanted. These kids don't appreciate us. This place is a bummer anyway. Where do you think you're going? Asked Dr. Kerbel. Let's go to Starbucks, replied Mr. Nick as he got back on the bus. You can't leave, shouted Dr. Kerbel. I hired you for the whole week. You're under contract. We're splitting, dude, said Mr. Nick. This school gives off bad vibes. Come on, Moon. Let's go get some coffee. Then we'll go back to the yurt. Mr. Nick's girlfriend, dentist, yoga instructor, and cook got on the bus. Wait, stop! Come back here this minute, shouted Dr. Kerbel. That's an order. Hey, I don't take orders from the man, said Mr. Nick. I think for myself. And then he flashed a peace sign at Dr. Kerbel as the bus pulled away. Well, I think it was a peace sign. I didn't get a good look at it. Like I said before, I was hungry. Who's going to run the school now? Asked Andrea. Yeah, said Emily. Who's going to teach us? Klutz, shouted Dr. Kerbel. You're hired again. Hooray! We all yelled. Everybody gathered around Mr. Klutz and our teachers, and we had a big group hug. We missed you. We missed you too. And we all went back into the school. Well, that's pretty much what happened. Maybe our teachers will be normal again now that they have a coffee machine. Maybe Mr. Cooper will stop tripping over umbrellas. Maybe Mr. Nick will open up a vegetarian bookstore. Maybe Miss Moon will stop playing that horrible love song on her guitar. Maybe Mr. Bob will go back to being a dentist. Maybe Miss Julia will cook something for lunch besides water soup. Maybe we'll have a big dog washing party. Maybe some porpoises will show up in the all-purpose room. Maybe Dr. Kerbel will go back to rent-to-tank. Maybe we'll be able to prevent an asteroid from crashing into the Earth and wiping out all life on our planet. But it won't be easy.